Plumbing with Sharkbites the right way. Are you using push-to-connect fittings? In this video, we're going to talk about push-to-connect fittings, and if you are a professional plumber or a plumbing company using them, I want you to tell me why at the end. So Sharkbite fittings are good for PEX, copper, CPVC, PERT, and HDPE piping. As plumbers here in the North Central Texas area, we use copper and PEX more than anything. As a residential service provider, we go out and fix leaks.
That's a lot of damage.
Well, unfortunately, we get a lot of calls for Sharkbite fittings. But when we talk to the homeowner, it really surprises us that a plumber actually came out and did the work. So I'm asking you, first of all, if you're a plumber or a plumbing company, are you using these? If you're a homeowner, are you using them? And do you understand the difference between the universal PEX and the Evo PEX? And here's why. These are what Sharkbite calls a temporary fitting, and these are called a permanent fitting, meaning you can take this one off, this one you can't. And I'm going to talk about the differences here in a minute. But let's get back to using these. If you use these for copper and CPVC, you don't actually need the strengthener on the inside. Now, this strengthener or stiffener actually keeps softer pipe from closing and possibly getting out of the grips of the stainless jaws on the inside. Now, push-to-connect fittings, believe it or not, there is a time and place for them. We actually, whenever I worked out at the airport, had to have these around. Actually, what we had is we had caps and valves, and we had those in a flood control box. Now, the reason we had these, if you're a plumber, if you own a plumbing company and you've got a flood on a big job like that, you need to stop that water flow immediately. Oh my God! One of the best ways to do it is shut the water down, and even while water's still coming out of the pipe, you can actually force on a Sharkbite cap or valve and then turn it off. Now, this is a great thing to do. It's a great thing to have. But to me, as a professional plumbing company owner, I would never use these out in the field to do a repair on somebody's house. Now, I know this creates a lot of controversy, and a lot of people think, why not, Roger? We use them all the time. Well, we've gone back and fixed so many leaks on Sharkbites that I wanted to actually do a video and talk about how do you use them the right way. First of all, you need to identify your material. Like I said, PEX works on copper, CPVC, PEX, PERT, and HDPE. Now, PEX, PERT, and HDPE are all softer materials. CPVC is a little harder, and then of course, copper. Now, they have a stiffener inside of the PEX Universal. This definitely goes inside on the softer pipe, but you can leave it. You don't have to remove it, or it says you do not have to use this for using it on copper or CPVC. Now, the first thing that I want to show you about these is the reduced size. So this is actually a 3/4 coupling, and this is a 3/4 inch Sharkbite fitting. What I want you to notice first of all is how much smaller the interior of the Sharkbite is compared to the inside of the 3/4 inch coupling. Now remember, this gets pipe inside of it with the stiffener inside of it. This gets pipe inside of it. The big difference is how close they are. This is going to create quite a flow reduction. Now, if you're using these in multiple places, you're using multiple, or you're using them multiple times, you're actually going to create a lot of flow restrictions. This is going to create loss of volume, not loss of pressure. You can still put a pressure gauge on in the shower and test it. Your pressure is going to be fine. The problem you're going to run into is loss of flow, especially if they're running a dishwasher, a washing machine, and now somebody jumps in to take a shower too. There's not going to be a lot of pressure there because of all the flow restrictions you've put in along the way. If you look at this 3/4 inch universal Sharkbite coupling and this 1/2 inch copper coupling, as you notice, they're almost the same size. You can line them up, and I know this is hard for you to see from where you're at, but by the time you put the 1/2 inch copper in here, they're going to be about the same size. Would you take a piece of 3/4 inch copper, reduce down, put a 1/2 inch 90 on, and then go back up to 3/4? Because literally, that's what you're doing every time you use these. Now, PEX fittings are the same way, but I just want you to understand that in the beginning. That way you understand using too many of these can actually lead to problems. So after you identify your materials and you know what to use or if it's okay to use it, then what you want to do, you want to make sure you cut it squarely. Now, these soft materials, you want to make sure you use a cutting tool that is going to cut it true, straight, and square. Then you want to smooth everything down. Now, even if I was using this on PEX or something, I would want to take off any rough edges. If you're using this on copper, you definitely want to deburr it, sand it down. You want everything as smooth as possible. Now, this is something that probably a lot of people don't do, and that's why these tend to leak. Guys, I've seen these last a long time. I'm not saying they won't do it. I'm saying most of the leaks that we go out and fix on water lines actually have a Sharkbite fitting. So once you do that, you want to mark your insertion depth and then put it together, turn it on. So literally, that's it. Identify the right materials, cut it squarely, deburr, clean the edges, do anything you have to do, and push it together. Now, one thing about the universal fitting is you can take it back off. They actually make a special tool that pushes this in, unlocks the teeth, where you can slide this back off. One good thing about the Sharkbite fitting is you can rotate it. So if you put it together and it's not quite square, you can tilt it over a little bit. In 41 years of plumbing and soldering, guys, we learned to do that before you ever put it together. Line it up the way you want it, solder it up. You don't have to move it later. Now, two special tools they have. They have an insertion depth and deburring tool, which is fantastic to work with this. Believe it or not, that's a great tool to have no matter what type soft pipe you're joining. If you can get that deburring tool, it takes the edges off everything and it's gonna help you no matter what type you're putting together. The other one is the removal tool that is good for this. Now, one thing about the universal Sharkbite fitting is if you bury this underground, Sharkbite has a silicone wrap that you're supposed to put around it. I have seen so many of these put underground with no protection at all. That might be why there's part of the leaks. Now let's talk about the Evo system. One of the big differences in these two is the Sharkbite Universal seals off on the outside of the pipe. The Sharkbite Evo seals on the inside, and this is a permanent installation. It's not gonna come back apart. But again, if you look at the sizes here, look at the reduction. You're literally gonna reduce almost a full pipe size whenever you put this in. Guys, as long as you remember things like that and you have the pressure, the flow rate, if you're only doing one and it's only going to one fixture, maybe it's not going to be that big a deal. But if you're putting this on a 3/4 inch line that feeds a house, you have now created flow reduction to that entire house. Even if you use a press fitting, people ask me, well, what about a press fitting compared to Sharkbite? Well, a press fitting presses on the outside. You're not creating any flow reduction. So if you're a plumber, if you're a professional plumber, are you using either one of these? If so, do me a favor and leave me a comment down below. If you're a plumber and you've had to go out and make repairs on these, also, I'd be interested in knowing about it. Now, if you're a homeowner, this is a great thing to do. If you do all the steps that I talked about earlier, this could be the difference in turning your water back on over the weekend or not. Anyway, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think. Is this a good thing for you? And do you think it's a professional installation? I hope you enjoyed this. If so, let me know. I'm Roger Wakefield, Lead AP, the expert plumber. I'll see you in the next video if you don't get flushed.